Have you ever been like automatically rejected?
Oh yeah, all frequently. When go last week, maybe I sent a job application in on LinkedIn, and I think it was less than 5 minutes. If even that, I got an auto no thank you email, and I'm like, wow, this just happened like I said less than 5 minutes ago.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk, where Gen Z meets Gen X. We're bridging the gap one conversation at a time. Kevin, today's topic is Gen X and in the job market. What do you think of that topic?
I think it's a super relevant, important topic for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are different between a Gen X and a Gen Z job search, but there's a lot of things, a lot of similarities as well. So I'm looking forward to exploring it today.
Yeah, me too. So let's jump in. So Christine, you want to give a quick introduction to yourself, and then we can with our questions.
So, yeah, great. So I started out as a software engineer. I started out, ran software departments and kind of got burnt out from it and left that world and decided to start my own recruiting agency. And that's essentially my career 2.0. So it was a conscious choice to pivot, to get out of tech and to try something different. But not everybody, wants to try something different and they want to stay in their industry. And that's been a challenge lately.
Been a challenge, yeah, certainly. I mean, the job market so up and down, and the world quickly changing between kind of all fronts. So I would start with a bit of a risk, leap of faith in many ways. So
And it definitely is it definitely is a leap of faith when you're trying something new. But you get to a point for some people, they want to stay in the industry and and they do the job search for a certain period of time. And when it's really not coming to fruition or the way that they envision, then they decide to pivot. Or sometimes it's people like me where you just kind of had enough in one industry and you want to try something else.
totally. So when you left corporate and you wanted to go out on your own, what were some of kind of the top of minds? Yeah, I don't want to say concerns or fears, but was it scary leaving a crispy corporate role, or
Yeah.
let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's really scary when you're starting anything new. Like we're starting this YouTube channel, right? I mean, we're new,
What
and
you
it's kind of scary to kind of you're putting yourself out there. And when you're starting your own business, there's a lot of expenses that come with starting your own business and having to build relationships in different areas and stuff that can't really maybe leverage as much as your previous life, and you're leveraging different or building different relationships and you're on your own. So you're not no one's giving you a paycheck at the end of the week if you don't work or make money.
Yeah, definitely no free cash grab.
No. So that's definitely, you're kind of and you go to work, you might have a bad day or whatever, but you still, you're going to get paid. And here that's not necessarily true.
Totally. So how do you prepare on coming from a software and a technology and PM background? How do you kind of prepare to pivot out of that life into to this life?
Right. So for me, I wanted to do something a little bit different, but that since I had run software departments before, I was very used to hiring. And so I'm kind of switching the sides that I'm on. But whenever you're doing something new, for me, it was getting mentors. So I had about two or three mentors that I worked with, one for kind of specifically recruiting, one more just for business mentors, and then a lot of networking, just going to any networking groups that you can just to try to build up again those relationships that are a little bit different.
A little bit different. And so aside from being a little bit, is it scary?
It's scary.
It's scary. And so, in looking through my notes and some research on my end, I noticed a lot of Gen Xers want to leave, like you said, the long days, the long hours, all of the politics that we face in corporate America and things like that. But also sometimes also it has to do with having the flexibility to be with your family, your friends, your children, if you have children, things like that. Do you find that true in the back impact your decision at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times people want to pivot because the work life balance is just off. And so they want to do something different. And really depending on what you decide to do, You may have a better work-life balance, or it may be the same. It's just different because it's maybe on your time schedule a little bit more, but you can decide where you want to work. You can decide the hours you want to work, but you may be putting in the same number of hours or even more when you're starting your own business.
Okay. And so what's your favorite outcome of having your own companies, your own businesses so far?
Well, for me, I just like I like the flexibility. I like the challenge of it. I like building those relationships and kind of just doing something different. After decades being in tech, it's nice to be doing something different and talking
Something.
to different people.
So, side note here. So, for seeing Larry new here, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and join for more conversations about work life, where people are looking for what kind of current technology, all kinds of fun topics that we're going to converse on and share our insights and hope to really build a sense of community between everybody, but really between Gen X and Gen Z and create a safe and welcoming place for people to interact and be a part of something.
Exactly. Kevin, like I said, so it could be Gen Zs are not yet entering the workforce, or they've been in there for a couple of years and decided corporate's not really for them. So it's kind of the same. A lot of Gen Zs are taking a chance and starting their own career, own companies as well.
Yeah. And kind of venturing out and kind of seeing how we can sort of leverage our skill set that we have from working in a normal environment and then taking those skills and applying them out of that space and
Mhm.
making something great.
Yeah,
Let's
definitely. It's interesting. It's interesting to see like how people what they want to do in their careers, but there's also the issue right now, as you know, Kevin, a lot of both in Gen Z and Gen X is that a lot of people are being laid off. And so they may have thought at some point they might want to start their own company, but they're now being faced with being laid off and maybe not have been prepared for that. And that's an issue too. Like how do you get another job in the industry that you're not really ready to start your own company yet?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think layouts are bullying everywhere, right? At all levels, everyone's career, all different industries. I think it's an entrepreneurial time in the workplace right now. So, Christine, so I know I'm going to a lot of different networking type experiences and, virtual or in person, and just building my network and kind of working on my pitch and building a stronger, network for me.
Mhm.
So, what do you find? Are you going to those types of networking events? Do you find them valuable at this point in your career? What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think networking events right now are extremely valuable for people who are looking for a job. As Gen Xers know, I mean, there's just an evolution of how people have looked for jobs. And so you're no longer looking in the paper on Sunday and circling jobs you want and faxing or mailing your resume, right? Everything's online and everything's really quick and easy, but that also is on both sides. So it may be a lot easier for you to apply, but that means a lot of people are applying. So a job is open and there may be hundreds of applicants within the first 24 hours. So that's kind of, so that's like, yeah, it's easier, but it's easier for everybody. You don't have to get a stamp. You don't have to do anything, right, to apply. And also now there's all these tracking systems, applicant tracking systems, ATSs, and different things that are screening the resumes. And so people are being rejected before their resume is ever seen by a human. And you don't know what the screening criteria is. And so if you are, let's just say, a project manager and you put, I manage projects or I've done this, if you don't specifically maybe have the word project manager on your resume, it's being rejected. Or if you don't have some skill that you didn't think to put, PowerPoint or something or Microsoft Office on your thing, and that's what they were looking for, you're being rejected. So it could be something like a skill related, but it could also be, we don't know. Are they doing up like how many years or when you graduated? Is there some like ageism in there? Is there, what's really going on with these scanners? And that people are being rejected. I mean, have you ever been like automatically rejected?
Oh yeah, all but frequently. Last week maybe I sent a job and application in on LinkedIn, and I think it was less than 5 minutes, if even that. I got an auto and a no thank you email, and I'm like, wow, this just happened like I said less than 5 minutes ago. And I get never touched HR, I never went to anybody.
And
And
I'm
just, definitely like,
oh, like them.
take up the chance.
Oh, that's really interesting. All right. So everybody comment below. What was your quickest rejection that you got after applying for a job? I'd be interested to see that. But that's really disheartening for, and it's disheartening because you have your resume and maybe even you've customized your resume because what are people saying? Customize your resume for the job. And so you're customizing your resume, you're going through all this, and then you hit submit, and within a couple minutes, you're already being rejected.
Yeah, it, for me, and I think everybody, it's how many times can you apply to things and get an instant rejection after you research the company a little bit, make sure that
Yeah.
your resume's up, kind of on par with what we're looking for, top of mind anyway, and then I'm in 2 seconds.
And that's
So
what that's back to the original thing, Kevin. That's why I think that finding a job through the job posts is really is not going to happen, and certainly not in this environment right now, the market. So you really do need to be out there networking, and it's important to network all the time. It's in person or even if it's a virtual setting, but to really meet a whole different industries, different levels of people, because you never know where that next job may come from. So one aspect is really just getting yourself out there and presenting yourself because a lot of companies are looking first they might be hiring internally to see if they can promote or find someone from a different department. But then they're starting to do referrals, like referrals from people who work there, like, hey, do you know anybody else? Or have you heard of this? Or, do you know anyone who has this skill? And a lot of that is happening there. And if you're going to the networking, then someone might work at that company and say, oh, you know what? There's some guy, he works there. He used to work at so and so, and he's available, and they'll bring you in. So I think networking at this point is one really key component to getting a job.
absolutely great. And Christine, when you were to these networking events or, past or present or whatever it may be, did you bring physical business card with you or do you bring like a dot business card with you?
That's really interesting because it really depends on the crowd. Some people are still handing out business cards and some are like, what do you mean? What is this? I have no idea. What are you giving? Why are you giving me a business card? So I think you have to kind of be prepared both ways and kind of just like read the room. But
Yeah.
so you're going to these networking events and you really have to have your story compelling. And I think you need to spend a lot of time in the prep because when you're going there, that's fine for that period of time, but you have to have a very cohesive story. And if you have been laid off, answer those questions of why you've been laid off, having your skills really succinct of what you can bring, and especially for someone who's Gen X. People you're definitely being scrutinized a little bit more about if you're going to be able to handle the technology and are you stuck in your ways? Are you going to be able to adapt? Are you flexible? And I think that's really important if you're there talking to someone that you can show that energy and that you can get the job done. And it's kind of like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I mean, I really think you need to spend a lot of time and you need to, before you go, have your social, your LinkedIn, everything like kind of really telling the story. And you want to have this very cohesive, compelling story when you present yourself.
Totally. And so how much time do you think you prepare prior to these networking events on average?
It has to be a couple of hours because depending on each event might have different people or different groups of people. And the reality is you're not going to be comfortable the first a couple of times you go to these. It's just like you have to just kind of accept that. And especially if you're not really used to networking or you haven't had to do it for a while because you've been in your job for a long period of time, it's uncomfortable, but you have to be prepared and you have to kind of go through your head. What kind of questions may people ask me? What are they going to ask me? How am I going to reply to that? And, having your LinkedIn profile and having a story there. And when I say story is not just having the about, but what you're posting. Are you posting original articles or things you wrote or things you've learned on there? Are you showing that you're an expert or a thought leader in that field? And that kind of then helps too, because people are going to look you up on LinkedIn and they're going to say, okay, that's great. He said this, but there's nothing on his profile that indicates this to me.
That indicates person exactly. And I think, Kristen, that it's an interesting topic there. I think, again, continue to watch for more tips and tricks on LinkedIn posts and content creation to really build that authority in that space or your space and seen as a leader in your domain.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. But it's you, and you have to kind of have, you have to, and Kevin, you have a marketing background, so I'll let you speak to this, but you're marketing yourself and you're
yeah,
creating you're creating, and I know for, especially like I was in tech and tech people would look at me like I'm crazy, but you have to create this whole personal brand. And, my Gen X, I don't know what you mean by personal brand, right? So maybe you can kind of explain a little bit, but you really do have to create this brand of yourself and how you present yourself to other people, because getting a job through a job post is highly, highly unlikely. And the networking and all these kind of, they call them hidden networks and all this stuff. All that really means is that somebody knows their neighbor who knows somebody else, and they're going to get, you're going to get an interview potentially that way, in that way.
totally. Yeah. No, I think the personal brand for your point, Christine, is really speaking to what makes you as a professional, right? What things have you learned? How do you present it? Are you super buttoned up and serious? Are you more casual? How do you kind of really present your army, your learnings, industry insights and data in a kind of a more, I don't want to say hip and trendy, but kind of a hip and trendy kind of way, right? I mean, LinkedIn at one point was just a place to find a job. Now it's become a major social platform essentially. And there's a lot of learning and a lot of networking and a lot of really great content out there that I sit there and I don't go on Facebook anymore. So then I scroll through LinkedIn every morning, right? Just to
Mhm.
see what people are posting and kind of crack a smile, learn something, connect with somebody, it's a really powerful tool. So
But Kevin, so do you like the kind of more personal, this is what I did this weekend type of post on LinkedIn? Because to me, this seems a little far. And I mean, to me, I think it would be more business and more who you are as a professional, but it seems like you're talking more of it as a social platform, like, here's what I did over the weekend.
good for it. I think it's definitely a social platform in the sense of, hey, my kid plays soccer and, you know, um, I coach the kid soccer team and I've used my leadership skills
Okay.
professionally, but also I use these skills to help my kid soccer team. So it's
Hmm.
kind of a cross pollination a little bit. I'm not saying that I'm sapping in, my dog for a walk kind of post, but something that just kind of shows some personality and some humanistic qualities, right? Outside of corporate America.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I mean, you read a lot of stuff and a lot of people are saying to kind of make it more personal. Like, I did take my dog for a walk, or, here's my kid's soccer game, that even if you coach it. And I really have, and I think, and very general, but the people I talk to of my generation are like, we used to keep things really private, nobody, who cares, but I know it is kind of the thing, like you're saying, to make you seem well-rounded and everything. So it's a little bit of a different take. It's kind of a little bit out of my comfort zone.
Definitely. I mean, I think, but you a good point, Barry. I think it's a challenging thing to do, right? Because it is outside your comfort zone. You're kind of putting yourself out there,
Mhm.
personally or professionally. And I can't just keep them, you know, dry post. It has to be engaging, has to have some personality to it. It has to be fun.
Has to. Okay. All right. We'll see. But yes, but I really do think the key here right now is networking, networking in professional organizations, networking in general, just job searching, networking, even going to any type of neighborhood or community organizations, just really and networking anywhere that you can possibly network. I know you go to quite a few networking events.
I do. I try and get at least 1 to 2 a week.
And are they specifically for your industry, or are they more generic?
But two I go to weekly are kind of more generic. I do go to some PMI events, maybe once a month, give or take. All are rule pretty generic.
Okay. So Kevin is the project manager, and so in PMI, Project Management Institute. Yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think that you really just have to talk to whoever you can talk to and let them know that you're looking for a job and here's what you have. But you really do need to do a lot of prep and get your story straight because you only get that one chance to really meet that person then and make a good impression. But
And
I know it's overwhelming when people are sending out hundreds and thousands of resumes and not getting a response. But the reality is that things have changed. And right now, networking seems to be what's working.
absolutely. And Christine, I think we should discuss networking more for a second video if we come
Yeah,
back and
I
do this
think
again.
so.
High level some thoughts here, and I'm curious what your take on this is. Networking today, it can't be I walk to an event and meet Christine and I say, hey, Christine, I'm a PM, I need a job, right? That doesn't work, right? So I went to a networking event a few weeks ago, and basically they were saying, ask somebody that you connect with in your network, what are your challenges in this role? What are your challenges in this industry? And get to know that person. I'm dressed a little bit casual, not in a suit and tie, but a little bit casual, and say, hey, what can I learn or how can my current skill set be used in this role in this industry? What's your take
Mhm.
on that? Because nobody wants to be asked for a job, right?
Exactly. I mean, obviously, we're networking, but that's what I was saying. Even networking in community events where it's not even specifically for a job. And it's just basically having people get to know you and build that level of trust within people and having them know what you can do and maybe finding roles and being a little bit maybe flexible on what type of role or what type of title that you're willing to, that you're open to taking. But it's really just kind of planting all these seeds, just kind of putting yourself out there and to see what really comes to fruition. And it's tough job market, especially for a lot of industries. It's a really tough job market, whether you're Gen Z, whether you're Gen X, and you have to do something to differentiate yourself. If you're just, even though you're kind of working it and you're applying and maybe you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, that's really a tough way of doing it.
And at the end of the day, if there's no conversion, you aren't moving the needle.
Right. Exactly. And then, as you were mentioning before, you can only take so many rejections before it just becomes like, you know what? I'm going to take a month off. I'm not going to do this, or I'm just going to give myself a break. And that 1 month or 2 month might be where that job is that you're going to get, so consistency is really key because it's just a lot of it's timing as well. Because maybe
Yeah,
a company is not looking for something this week, but maybe in 3 weeks they are. And if you're taking that break and not being consistent, you may lose out on that opportunity.
totally. Absolutely. So consistency is key. Networking is key. I think
Yeah.
having an updated LinkedIn profile is
Mhm.
paramount in today's world.
And I really think the story, I think the branding that you give yourself and the story that you're going to tell and tell other people is just spending that time to do that. I think is going to be much more return on investment, than just sending out, oh, here's another job. Let me apply to this online.
Absolutely. Well, Christine, a great conversation.
As a
And as always,
I always enjoy speaking to my Gen Zer.
for sure, always. And
On that note,
on that note,
well, thank you everybody for joining us.
talk soon.